for a while, then it didn't. End worked for a while, then it didn't. And when it collapsed, you blamed yourself. You called it weakness. You said, I just don't have what it takes. I need you to stop. Because that story, the one where discipline is a personality trait you either have or you don't, that story's wrong. I've spent over 20 years in structural engineering. I've watched buildings hold under loads they were never designed for. And I've watched structures that look solid fail completely. Not because the material was weak, because the system was built wrong from the start. Discipline works exactly the same way. It is not a character trait, it is a structure. And like every structure, it must be designed, loaded carefully, and built in sequence. Nobody tells you that. Today, I will. In 2003, I was part of a team rebuilding a coastal bridge in the aftermath of structural failure. The original engineers, talented people, experienced people, had made one critical mistake. They built the visible structure first, the spans, the arches, the aesthetic, beautiful from above. But the foundation work, the invisible, unglamorous, load-bearing foundation work, had been rushed. And when the pressure came, not catastrophic pressure, just the ordinary daily accumulated pressure of traffic and weather and time, the structure moved. Not dramatically, not all at once. A millimeter here, a hairline fracture there. By the time anyone noticed, the cost of repair was 4 times what it would have been to build it right. I stood on that site for a long time, and I remember thinking, this is exactly what people do with their lives. They build the visible things first, the schedule, the routine, the goal board, the early alarms, the cold showers, the productivity apps, without building the foundation. And then they wonder why it keeps moving. Here's what the foundation of discipline actually is. Not motivation, not routine, identity, the invisible, load-bearing belief about who you are. And if that's cracked, everything you build on top of it will drift. I want to ask you something, and I want you to actually sit with it. How many times have you started over? Not failed once and stopped. Started over, Monday, again, January, again, after the setback, again. You built the routine. It held for 3 weeks, maybe 6. And then one hard day came. Not a disaster, not a tragedy, just a hard day. The kind where you're tired before you start. The kind where the gap between who you want to be and who you actually feel like is so wide it takes your breath away. And the routine collapsed, and you told yourself, see, I knew I couldn't do it. I need you to understand something about that moment. That collapse was not weakness. That collapse was structural data. In engineering, when we load test a structure, we watch for the point where it deflects, not to condemn the structure, to understand where the real load is, where the system needs reinforcement. Every time your discipline has failed, every single time, it failed at the same kind of moment. A moment of high emotional load, fatigue, rejection, loneliness, uncertainty. Those aren't excuses. Those are load conditions. And you cannot build a discipline system that ignores load conditions. That's not strength. That's poor engineering. Here's the truth nobody tells you. Discipline is not the ability to do hard things when you feel motivated. Anyone can do that. Discipline is the structural capacity to keep functioning under load. When motivation is absent, when results are invisible, when the people around you have stopped believing, and when you are the only one still showing up. That capacity is not built by doing hard things repeatedly. It is built by building the right systems in the right sequence. There is a concept in structural engineering called progressive loading. You do not test a new structure with its maximum intended load on day 1. You load it gradually. You watch how it responds. You reinforce what flexes. You stabilize what drifts. And over time, over months and years of intelligent, progressive loading, the structure doesn't just hold, it becomes capable of more than it was designed for. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have iron discipline, they don't have more willpower than you. They've been under progressive load for longer. They've reinforced what failed. They are not a different kind of person. They are a structure that has been built correctly over time, and you can build that, not by wanting it more, by engineering it differently. In structural engineering, every load-bearing system has layers. You cannot build layer 3 before layer 1 is stable. Discipline is no different. The bedrock, identity. Before you build anything, answer this question. Who is the person who does this, even when they don't want to? Not what do I want to achieve? Who am I becoming? Because behavior follows identity, not the other way around. If you believe at your core that you are someone who struggles with discipline, every system you build will be fighting that belief from the inside. You must lay this bedrock first, and laying it doesn't mean affirmations. It means making one small decision that aligns with the person you're becoming, and doing it when no one is watching. That is how identity is poured. One decision at a time. The footing. Minimum viable behavior. Your minimum viable behavior is not your ideal behavior. It is the one thing you do on the worst day, the sick day, the grief day, the I have nothing left day. For some people, that's 10 minutes. For some, it's one page, one call, one rep. The footing must never move. If you compromise the footing, everything above it drifts. The frame. Consistent environment. Your environment is your frame. Design it. Don't decorate it. Remove friction from the behaviors you want. Add friction to the behaviors that undermine you. Don't rely on motivation to navigate a badly designed environment. A poorly framed structure fails under ordinary load. Design the frame deliberately. Reinforcement. Recovery systems. The most overlooked layer, steel structures have controlled flex points, places designed to absorb stress so the structure as a whole doesn't crack. You will have bad days. You will fall off. The undisciplined person treats this as evidence of failure. The engineer treats it as a stress event and asks, what does the system need to recover? Sleep, movement, honest conversation, a day of stillness. Recovery is not weakness. It is structural maintenance, a structure that cannot flex, shatters. Progressive load. Deliberate escalation. Once the foundation is stable, you load it. Gradually, intentionally. You add weight only when the structure has proven it can hold what it currently carries. This is why most people fail at discipline. They skip layers 1 through 4 and immediately try to hold maximum load. The structure bends. They call it failure. It wasn't failure. It was poor sequencing. Build in order. Load progressively. The capacity that grows from that process is permanent. I want to tell you something I've never said in a video before. I was not always this person. 23 years ago, I was a man who started things and did not finish them. Not because I was lazy, because every time the load got heavy, I interpreted the difficulty as a signal that I was in the wrong place, that the thing wasn't for me, that I wasn't built for it. I quit a project 18 months in because I hit resistance I didn't know how to process. I told myself it was the right call. For years, I believed that. Then one night, sitting alone in a site office at 11 p.m., looking at a structure we'd almost given up on, I watched a junior engineer do something I hadn't done in years. He hit a problem, a real one, the kind that stalls projects, and instead of his face falling, I watched him pause and say quietly, okay, so this is where the real work starts. 8 words, and something in me shifted. I had been treating difficulty as a verdict. He was treating it as a location, not "I can't do this." But this is where the work happens. That distinction, that single shift in how difficulty is interpreted, is the identity shift. Because once you stop reading resistance as rejection, once you start reading it as the exact place where your structure gets stronger, you stop quitting. Not because you're tougher, because you understand what's actually happening. Difficulty is not the sign that you're failing. It is the sign that you are being loaded. And under load is exactly where structures are built. In engineering, the structures that last aren't the ones that were never tested. They're the ones that were tested and reinforced. Every crack that was found and filled. Every load that was survived and learned from. Every near failure that became design intelligence. You have been tested more than you let yourself acknowledge. And you are still here. That is not nothing. That is structural data of the highest order. It means the foundation, however imperfect, is holding. It means you are buildable. All that's left is to build correctly. Stop trying to hold maximum load before the foundation is set. Lay the bedrock first, pour the identity, set the footing, frame the environment, build the recovery, and then load it, deliberately, progressively, patiently. Discipline is not a personality trait you were either born with or not. It is a structure, and structures are built, one layer at a time, one decision at a time, on days when no one is watching, on days when the result isn't visible yet, on days when the only thing that's true is, I showed up, I held the load, I'm still here. That is how it's built. That is how it has always been built. Not with fire, with precision, not with intensity, with sequence, not with willpower, with structure. Go build yours. Unstoppable.